Biggest game of the weekend. We've got Tennessee heading into Georgia. It's a night game in Athens. We've not seen a night game, a big time night game in Sanford Stadium for quite a while. Going to be really exciting. I'm pretty pumped for it. Have been all week. However, it appears we're not going to know if Nico Iamaleava is going to play until we get close to game time. He's been in the concussion protocol, and that would suck. I want to see these two at their full strength. I want to see if Georgia can pull off their next big win, which would be their third big win of the year. Absolutely guarantee they get into the playoffs. That would be 3 wins over teams that Texas at worst is going to be 10-2 if they lose to A&M at the end of the season. Tennessee, most likely 10-2, providing they don't lose their season finale to Vanderbilt. And then Clemson, who's going to be 10-2 most likely as well. So 3 10-2 wins. Really impressive. And the 10-2 win over Clemson is going to be the one that's going to push them over the hump to get into the playoffs. If they did not schedule that out-of-conference game against Clemson, they would not have gotten in. Now, heading into the season, I was hoping that the committee would be able to set some precedents that would encourage out-of-conference scheduling, big-time games in that first 3 weeks of the season so that we get to watch them as fans. And you do that by rewarding it. Some people were saying because of Georgia's 2 losses to Ole Miss, to Alabama, that it's not worth it to schedule these big-time out-of-conference games. But clearly you can see if they get in, it's going to be on the strength of scheduling and winning that Clemson game. So very important that they did that this year. So we're going to have some evidence that that really helps somebody in this scenario, which is why I hope they get in. And I hope they beat Tennessee. And I also hope that selfishly, because as an Ohio State fan, I want to see that rematch. Anyway, not the point of this video. I am rooting for Georgia this weekend for sure in that game. But I also want to point out that Tennessee has an interesting situation on their own. And Tennessee is a 1-loss team. They lost to Arkansas. Arkansas played really good that day. They really did. That one defensive end they got, the kid with the bald-headed kid, man, with alopecia, like Ryan Shazier. Those dudes are bad, man. You don't want to mess with dudes with alopecia. But he was a beast that night. And Tennessee doesn't really have many signature wins on their resume. They beat Alabama, but outside of that, there's nothing. Like, I think their next best win outside of that would be maybe like NC State, who at the time was ranked, has since gone. It's gone so bad for him that Grayson McCall, their quarterback to start the season, the one who played in that game, has since retired due to injuries of his own. But there is a theory that if Nico Iamaleava does not play in this game, you could potentially have Tennessee getting a pass for losing this game. Now, this would be their second loss. They obviously lost to Arkansas. This would be their second. This one would be to a good team, though. So you'd have 2 losses, and one of those losses would be without your starting quarterback. Now, we've certainly seen teams in the past get a pass for not having their starting quarterback and losing a game. And some people think it might be better for Nico to not play. That's absolutely crazy. Obviously, Tennessee fans, Tennessee players, Tennessee coaches revel in the opportunity to beat Georgia, and this Georgia team looks very beatable. They beat Kentucky by a point. They beat Mississippi State by 10, and that game was pretty close late. They looked like world beaters against Texas. The Alabama loss, look, in my opinion, it was a blowout. I know Georgia did great coming back, but Alabama changed everything in the second half and kind of allowed them to come back. And that, combined with Georgia going for it on every single 4th down, makes things a little bit different. I think Kalen DeBoer probably learned a lesson that game about how he's going to go about having a big lead heading into the second half, moving forward against a good team. But Tennessee, without Nico, doesn't stand a chance. They're a 10-point dog to the Dogs. Well, it opened at about 10.5. Then it was bet down to like 8.5, and I think maybe it swung back up. I haven't checked today. But definitely no chance without Nico. With Nico, to be honest, I like their odds a lot. I feel like this Georgia team is getting kind of beat down throughout this schedule they play, which has been excellent. I've appreciated the tough schedule they played. I love it. I love seeing a good team get tested, but I think that they're missing something here. I think this Georgia team is just off this year. I don't think that they are when is the last time you can remember a Georgia team looking like they did against Ole Miss? I mean, it just hasn't happened in several years. And I think this team is just missing a little bit of something that they used to have. Obviously, Carson Beck has played terrible. We know that. They couldn't really open him up against Ole Miss. I think they wanted to protect him a bit, and they did it pretty unsuccessfully because they couldn't do anything on offense. You're going to have to open him up, or you're going to have to play another quarterback. I don't know what else you can do here at this point. It looks like maybe it's in his head. We saw him perform last year at a really high level. He looked pretty good. In fact, he was the reason this year that when you parsed out the top two heading into the season, Ohio State and Georgia got the nod because Carson Beck was an established good quarterback. Ohio State had Will Howard, who has really outperformed Carson Beck. So an interesting situation heading into the big game at Sanford Stadium. I can't wait. This one's going to be awesome. I just hope that Nico plays. If he doesn't, we don't got a lot of big games this week. So really hoping for that. But I will take, providing Nico plays, the Vols plus the points. I just might take the Vols straight up. Let's do it. Vols straight up. Vols in the upset at Sanford at night. Would this be the biggest win of Heupel's career? I think so. It'll solidify a playoff berth. Definitely. Definitely it will be. Bigger than that Alabama game. Definitely not as fun. I'm talking about the one a couple years ago. It won't be as cool, man. That was one of the coolest sights I've ever seen in college football. Anyway, that's the pick. Tennessee.